made it! Woo! 1. Did you figure out why my tests are failing?
Almost got it. And just... What? 1. It's working on my computer. How come it's not working in production?
Safari. 1. How can I scroll lock in Safari without the keyboard going crazy when I focus?
I just feel like things have gotten so complex. I sort of miss Rails.
Do you ever think we'll get that again?
I don't know, but check this out.
What is this?
Ask it any coding question.
Okay. What's better, Drizzle or Prisma?
Look,
Whoa. No way.
here, watch this. What do you think of server components?
All right, so One is not a new AI coding assistant, but what One is a new React framework. And you may be thinking, we don't need more of either of those things. But One does two things differently. First, it makes Vite able to serve React Native and web at the same time with seamless file system routing across server, client, and static pages, all while hot reloading on native and web at the same time. The second thing that One does is it makes local first a first-class citizen. We're working with the team behind Zero to integrate it as the default but ejectable solution to data. We think that it makes for the first time that you can actually share code across web and native apps without downsides. Let's take a look.
All right, I am so excited to be showing you guys One today. Our team has been working super hard on it, and it's really been coming together over the last few months. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. You can create a One app as simply as npx1, and I'll go ahead and just choose all of the defaults for our create flow here, just so we can get going. And we'll use Bun so that things are nice and fast. And now that our app is created, we can go ahead and cd in, and then give it a run. All right, and it's as simple as that. We can pop this thing open, and let's open it up in Chrome. And so what you'll see is we've just put together a little social network demo. And I think as with any Vite app, the first thing you kind of want to take a look at is the Vite config. So let's go ahead and open that up. And I think the main thing to note here is just that One is just a Vite plugin, and it's as simple as that. It works with your Vite plugins. We're using, our tsconfig paths, so we have nice import paths. And there's just a few things going on here. We have our zero true. This is the default. You can turn it off, but when you turn it on, it just does a few things to optimize zero even further. We also are setting our default render mode here to be SPA, like single page app. And this is one of the features that's unique to One that I think is probably one of the cooler things, and it's never been really done before, which is that you can, on a per route or on a global fallback level, you can configure your app to route across 3 different modes as of today: server-side rendered, statically generated at build time, or you can also have it just be a client-side app. And this works with everything. Our typed file system routing and everything all works across that. So you don't have to actually bail out of your file system routing to do this. One thing that we realized when sort of like building One is that when you're building a native app, it's very much like a SPA. But on the web, you sort of have these different worlds. A lot of times you have maybe like a logged in page or a dashboard or internal tools or something like that are much more like SPA-like apps, and they're much easier to build if you don't have to worry so much about the server. But at the same time, you always have these marketing pages or SEO sensitive pages or pages that you just want to load really fast on the first request. This is the first time you can really share code, not just from native and web, but also from app-like websites to more, website or static like web pages. I think we can go ahead and dive in now. You can see our file system routes here. We've got our layout. This one is just setting up a few things. I don't think there's too much here that's too interesting. I mean, we've got our color scheme provider, for light and dark mode. We can import CSS. We can diverge as much as we want within these layouts, and you'll see more on that in a bit. We are providing Zero. We are providing Tamagui. One thing that I want to talk about with Tamagui just very, very quickly is that Tamagui really gives you all those web features you're used to. I mean, you're talking about, very advanced like children styling, you're talking about container queries, you're talking about advanced media queries. Like it really gives you all of that, and the optimizing compiler works right out of the box with One. It gives you, optimized CSS that's output completely statically. It can actually flatten your entire page. So basically, like, I think Tomagui really solves this problem deeply between sharing code, not just, again, between native and web, but also between apps and websites. And we can go ahead and take a look at our homepage here, our index page. And one thing you'll notice right off the bat is that we're doing plus SSG. And so this is how you opt in, like I mentioned, into the render modes for each page. And in this case, we're doing a statically generated page. So this is at build time. When you're building for production, you'll actually get this to be HTML. You can serve it from your CDN, but it'll still be very it'll be very SEO optimized, I guess, SEO optimized, and it'll be rendered fully like that. And so we can take a look. Actually, let's prove it. I guess we can grab this piece of text here from the page and search it, and you can see that it's rendered into the HTML. It's rendered as one giant single line string from React, but it is there. And if I refresh the page there really quickly, there is absolutely no flickering. And that gets to our next point, which is that the zero integration with one is really nice. And we've spent a lot of time getting this just right so that there's no waterfalls. Everything's loaded very performantly. And we've got our zero query here. This one's a very simple one. We're doing a limit on our posts, and then we're nesting this subquery, and we'll show more on that in a second. But what I just wanted to touch on really quickly is that the server handoff here is really nice. Actually, even when you do have nested use queries going down your tree, what one is doing is it's actually capturing all those queries on the server side, serializing them all into a format that we understand. And then on the client side, it's actually then handing off. So on the first load on client, it's going to use that server rendered data. It's going to wait for zero to sync, and then zero is going to go ahead and hand it off. And zero is actually very smart. This is one of the coolest features about zero, is that it actually syncs exactly what it needs to begin with. Rather than syncing everything, zero is very smart, and it just syncs what it needs. So not only is the first load extremely fast thanks to one, but the handoff is also very fast thanks to zero. All right, let's continue. So we've got our layout here, and we can go ahead and click in to log in. And I think this is probably well past the time for us to go ahead and prove that one does work on native. And so we'll go ahead and load it up here. One thing to note is that one is using SWC, which SWC is lightning fast. This is actually there's no babble going on here. So this is a significant speed up, and it's been really actually awesome. It's been a lot of work to get that to work seamlessly across the wide ecosystem of React Native libraries. And we've got our index page here, and we can go ahead and just click into the actual logged in page. And so one thing you'll notice right off the bat, I think, is that these layouts look completely different. And that is one of the strong parts of React Native, and it fully works in one and with Vite. And that is that you can fork your layouts. You can fork any file actually just by using platform extensions. Here we're using .native, and you can see we're rendering some tabs. And that's how we're controlling these tabs down here, and sort of giving them icons, giving them different colors and all that stuff. And then we're actually also on the web doing something completely different. And so that's this layout here. And you can actually do .iOS, you can do .android, you can do .web. In this case, .native targets both iOS and Android. So we get to use that nice abstraction where it is rendering to a native, tab style view on native apps. And then on the web, we've got our web layout. Now we did a little bit of responsive design here. Oh, and we also have a touch layout that we've diverged from. So I'll show that really quickly here. Okay. Oh, opening Siri. Well, let's go ahead and pop open our mobile Safari, and then we can go ahead and load this. And all I wanted to show here is just that you have this really deep control, and we're just doing a touchable Boolean, but we could have done this with a fancy media query and made this extremely performant. But just because these layouts are so different, I just figured let's keep it simple and write them separately. And so that's basically that. Just wanted to show how basically flexible we are in terms of controlling the look and feel of your applications. So we can go back to our native app here, and we can look into our feed view, and we are nesting here. One thing to note is that this authenticated group, this is a group basically, which is in parentheses. It lets you do multiple layouts. You can see that we have this layout at the root, but then we have another layout. And so we're actually just we're basically giving a lot of control into how your app looks and feels and renders. And then we can go ahead and click into here at our feed. So this is the feed that we're looking at right here. And I think it's probably just interesting to start poking into zero a little bit and talking about what zero is bringing us and what we're doing to optimize it. I already alluded to the fact that it is preloaded from the server on server rendered pages. But another thing that you'll see is that we are actually nesting this query here. And that's because we have come up with a method that's a lot like relay to allow you to have basically a relay fragment, or to allow you to co-locate your queries for data where they're actually used, and to decouple your components so that they're not tied to the data exactly, and you can actually render them outside of the tree or in different places. And so let's take a look at how this feed card works. You can see we're rendering a feed card here, and we're using the feed card query that's also exported from it. And the pattern that I'm showing here as we open up our feed card is the simplest thing that we can come up with that still gives you this really nice, it gives you nice composability, but it also gives you great performance, but it also is just it's very easy to demo. And we're sort of working with the Zero team. We worked with them to come up with this pattern, but we think there's even a further pattern that could make it even better in terms of allowing your types and queries to be linked together a little bit more tightly. But I really like this one because of how easy it is to understand. You can see our feed card here. It takes an ID, and then we've got this param. And all param is, it's very, very simple. It's either a string, so you can just give this feed card a string, basically, or it's a reference to a string that the zero query lets you chain. And if you look here back at our index page, you can see what we're doing is we're calling .sub, and then we're calling feed card query, and we're passing it this param ID, param string, which is a ID, which is a param string. And all this is building essentially a join. Like, this zero just runs on Postgres. That's one of the great things about it. It runs with your existing schema. It doesn't require any special, change to that. It actually reacts to your Postgres changes directly, which is amazing. And so I think this is like some of the big barriers to local first are just being knocked down by zero, and that's why we're so excited about it. But another big one is that it lets you do these nested subqueries, which give you basically joins. And so this is how we avoid waterfalls. We're actually fetching this entire query up front. But at the same time, we're also able to just use this feed card independently. If you wanted to test it or use it with Storybook, again, it can just render like that with just an ID. And so it gives you both. And that's why that param there is the only thing you really need to understand. And once you understand that, you've got everything you need. You've got great types and you've got great nesting and composability here. So I just wanted to show that, we've got our little refresh control here. We've got a few other tabs. We made just, simple profile and notifications tab and screens. But, nothing too crazy going on there. I think one thing that you will see with the notifications is, well, this is a legacy. I had it as SPA. We switched everything to SPA, so everything is a SPA now. But I just wanted to very quickly show loaders. Loaders, we adopted a very similar pattern from Remix. This is actually when we converted the Tamagui website over to one, which it has been running in production for quite a while now, tamagui.dev. The loader pattern was essential for us to be able to port it very easily from Next.js. And actually, we found our code to be very, very clean after the port. It works the same way. It tree shakes out. It lets you just, here we're using Drizzle as an example, but we're doing some very advanced, querying, and then you pass it down here, and you actually get fully typed loaders as well, because we changed this to be just a little bit different here. But just wanted to show that very quickly, show that migrating over to one is actually quite nice if you're coming from something like a Remix or Next.js. And let's go ahead and click into our feed card now. So we can go ahead and look at it. As you can see, things are super fast thanks to zero. And one thing that I haven't really shown yet, which I just realized, is I haven't done HMR. And I think it's actually, this one is really nice to show. If we go back to our feed page, it's just kind of cool to show not only that zero gives you these nice types here, but, oh yeah, I'll show them side by side, huh? But you can see, if I change this back and forth, it HMRs instantly, and not only that, but just works, with your queries. And so we'll go back in here, and we'll go back to our ID page. And there's not much to show here. I think what I wanted to show is one is that the layout, once again, is diverging. You can see we get this really nice native layout on native. It's a stack. We're just doing a simpler form here. You don't have to do platform extensions if you don't want to. It's a very simple screen here that we're doing this layout. And then we're just using this for this ID page. We're just rendering it out here. And I think there's one thing that's kind of cool to show here, which is this typed route helpers that we have. So everything is typed in one. The file system routes are scanned for types. In fact, if we go back to our SSG page, I can show you really quickly the link here. And if I just go ahead and edit that, you can see that, I've got my feed, I've got my profile. So you get type checking across all of that, which is really nice. And you also get these type helpers. We're actually thinking about maybe even automating this even further, but by just grabbing this route.feed.id, and you can grab your use params here. You can also create your loader if you wanted to have a loader that's nicely typed. But I just want to show how nicely this all composes. We've got our ID, which our param ID, so that we can nest this if we'd like. We're doing subqueries here, which is really nice, and we're just calling it with use query, and it just works now. So I think for sort of the grand finale here, we want to show, of course, mutations and optimistic mutations, which zero gives us for free. No glue code. You don't have to do a hook and add a bunch of logic. You don't have to worry about anything. We've got our feed cards going on here. We've got our reply box, and I can just go ahead and on native say hello from ViteConf and hit reply, and it shows up absolutely instantly. In fact, because it's local first, on the very next frame, you're going to get this update on this side, and then of course as soon as it syncs. Another thing that zero does that's amazing is that the sync engine is granular. It's not rerunning all of your queries in order to sync on the client or on the server, and this is huge. I don't think any other local first library is doing this that I know of. So we can say aloha and send it right back. And so there you go. With almost no code, this is literally just one query here. And then if you look down here at the mutation, that's it. Just a typed mutate.replies.create. Zero handles the rest. It handles caching on the server side. It handles all the sync logic. It handles the local first logic. And so we're just huge fans. We're excited to be working with the zero team to include it. And I think it just makes, for the first time, you're really able to bridge web and native because zero is lightweight. It's not bringing along a 1 megabyte, SQLite engine to the client. It's not having to it's a custom, database engine that's implemented from scratch. And so it's quite light. I don't know what the final numbers will be, but but enough that you can basically use it on, even the most performant of static web pages. And that's what we're really trying to achieve with 1 and 0 is we're trying to, for the first time, unlock true code sharing with no downsides and really give you that great performance, whether you're doing a website only, a static website only, a dynamic website app, or a full-on cross-platform app that has dashboards that are very dynamic, but also has static pages that need to be performant. We're really trying to knock down these barriers and be the best web-only framework, but also the best native framework and the best unified, universal web and native framework. And so I think that's about all. I mean, that's been quite a bit. I'm so happy and so honored to be able to speak to you guys today and to be able to finally release this. 1 is available today. It's as easy as running npx 1. 0 is very close to being in public beta. I'm not sure if by the time this talk comes out it will be out, but needless to say, 1 will be available without it, and then the second that 0 is launched, it will be launching alongside 1, and we will have it completely ready. So I'm so happy to show this to you guys today, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your ViteConf.